Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Our guests waiting to be profiled are actor Joey Livingston and filmmaker Gary Conklin. Actor Joey Livingston was born and raised in Los Angeles. He graduated from Beverly Hills High School and the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. Joey's starring in The Protagonist, a play written for him by his brother Tim.
Yes.
So how did you decide to be an actor? When was the turning point for you?
The turning point probably came shortly after my junior year of high school. I wanted to play baseball, and when that didn't work out, I turned to the thing I loved second most, I guess.
How did
That
you know
sounds
you
weird.
loved it? Were you in theater in elementary school?
I didn't do any theater until after high school, actually. I was just always kind of an avid movie lover and an avid television watcher, and through that realized that it was something I really had a passion for.
Was there any show business in your family?
Show business? No. My dad likes to think of himself as a bit of a writer.
Yeah, a writer, yeah.
But
your brother's writes, right?
My brother writes. I got lucky there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the rest of the family, nothing way back?
Mom's a teacher. Uncles are dentists and...
Oh, really? Professional? So you just found
Yeah, I'm
your
the
own-
actor in the family.
You're the actor.
I'm happy to say that I'm the
That's
actor.
great. When you were at Beverly High, did you take any acting classes at all?
I took a film class. I took one film class, and I think it was the only A I got in high school.
So there you are.
Yeah, I was a terrible student, but we don't have to talk about that.
And
if you
then
don't want to.
and you were going to be a professional athlete? Is that what happened?
Sure.
Why not? Right? Baseball?
Sounds good to me. I wanted to be, but the amount of work that it would have taken to be a professional baseball player was paramount, and I got distracted in high school and wanted to have a social life. So.
Oh, you did? Did you play with any for the city teams? Did you play for the high school?
I played for Beverly Hills High School, and I was a Beverly Hills Little League All-Star
Yay.
for many years running. I think we won something.
We love that.
We won a district or something.
I think it's great anyway because it gives you a background, and you kind of like have to keep a schedule and
Absolutely.
work out.
And I mean, in terms of the discipline that it takes playing baseball, it's very similar being on stage and acting.
Did you see any crossover about the way you have to work
Prepare
in the
and
baseball?
do all that?
Prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best comparison would probably just be getting in your head. In baseball, it's a very mental game. You can't get in your head, and the second you do, you probably fail. And acting, it's a lot the same way.
Then how did you choose the American Academy? Or did it choose you?
Google. I checked Google.
Is that right?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to get out of LA. I knew I wanted to go to New York. Googled New York acting schools, and it was the first one that came up, and I auditioned and got in.
I was going to say, you have to audition. What did you do to get in?
What did I do to get in? I did a piece from Arthur Miller's After the Fall for my dramatic, and then I did a comedic piece from the TV show Coupling.
Who coached you? How did you know what to do? Because you said you didn't do any acting in high school.
Right.
And your friends weren't show business people.
They were not.
Even though there were a lot of show business people at Beverly High, right?
I'm sure there were. Yeah, I wasn't. I was not my crew.
That wasn't your clique.
That was not my clique. No, I stayed with my baseball guys. In terms of coaching, I had a teacher named Jeremy Guskin who's actually directing The Protagonist now.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Oh, so he helped you pick what to do?
Yeah, he's a teacher at LACSA the LA County Arts High School, and
right.
a friend of ours recommended him, and he coached me on my monologues, and we remained friends, and that's how he's directing The Protagonist now.
And how long were you in New York?
3 years.
Did you do any off-Broadway, any theater there?
I did a thing called New York Madness. It's like a little one-night festival of like 6 or 7 10-minute plays. And you get it day of, and it's really quick. And then it's basically you're workshopping it in front of an audience.
So you really didn't go on stage other than that?
Other than at school, no.
Is that so? The Protagonist, which is on what theater is it at?
The Lillian.
The Lillian Theater on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yes.
Is your first major premiere?
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, tell us about The Protagonist.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool. My brother wrote it, I would say, about 2.5 years ago. And it was really short. It was just the two of us. It was a 2-man play. It was 30 minutes.
He wrote it for you.
He wrote it for me. It's a good big brother.
Really?
And we put it up in front of family and friends, got a really good feedback, and decided to expand on it. And then we did it for a 3-night showcase in New York.
Oh, you did take it to New York.
Yeah.
What's the story?
The story is... It's almost autobiographical, but not quite.
I was going to ask if
yeah, it's very close to home. It's about essentially 2 brothers, the younger, who is
Joey and Tim.
Joey and Tim. It's the same names. It's
right.
There wasn't much creative license taken there. But yeah, 2 brothers. One who's still pursuing some sort of creative dream, and the other who is sort of given up on that and gone into a life of finance and boredom, I guess. But it's the brilliance is in the writing. It's a lot of slam poetry, a lot of...
I was going to ask you about that. What are the dialogue? First of all, this is expanded now, right?
Yes.
So how many characters are in it now?
There are 4 characters.
And he had to rewrite it?
He rewrote it. He's been working on it for the last 2 years. We would go in, we'd read it. This works, this doesn't, until we felt that we had the product we wanted.
Had he written anything before?
He, not in terms of a screenplay or a play. He's written a couple articles for Yahoo Sports. He's a sports writer.
Oh, he is. So you guys are really sports guys.
Oh, we're a sports family.
Taking over
we're
the
a
theater.
Sports family. Well, taking over is a little... I don't know if we're taking over yet,
but he wrote you a play.
He wrote me a play.
And you're
he writes
acting
sports
in it.
articles, yeah.
And he's made the characters. He's added more characters to it. What kind of characters did he add?
Only fun ones. There's a female character who kind of plays the love interest and the muse of my character. And then there's a buddy of mine who I met in New York, Christian, who's like an improv extraordinaire, and he plays a real estate agent, he plays a doctor.
You mean the actual Christian is his name?
Christian is his name. He's playing a bunch of different, just fun characters, and he's...
And they all come in and out of your lives, the 2 of yours?
They all, yeah. So basically it goes in and out. It starts with a monologue, and then what it does really well is it breaks down. There is no fourth wall. It's a lot of audience interaction. Is
it comedy versus...
It's comedy, but we get...
Drama?
We get a little deep at some points. There's some drama in it.
What's the dialogue? It sounded like there was some rapper type of dialogue going on. Is that what you were saying?
There is some rap, yeah. There's some... the monologues are heavy in slam poetry, heavy in rap. The dialogue in terms of scenes is,
like us,
like we're talking now.
But the poetry rap, how did you get the rhythm of that?
Timmy wrote it, and I read it, and he was like, I think it should sound like this, and I was like, I think it should sound like this, and somewhere in that we found a rhythm and we found a beat, and I think it sounds pretty good. I hope.
It sounded really good to
too.
me. And then who's directing it?
Jeremy Guskin, the guy who coached me to get into theater school.
And have you known him a long time?
I've known him for about 3.5 years now.
Oh, so he's part of this group now. We have Timmy and Joey
and Jeremy.
Is that? I mean, are you guys working together and doing things?
Hopefully, we can work on more stuff after this. But this is the first thing we've all collaborated on. Do
you continue to take classes? Are you taking classes now?
I'm not taking classes now. When I was still in New York, I took an Upright Citizens Brigade improv course, which is where I met Christian, the actor.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. But
and then
otherwise,
did you bring him out, or was he living here?
He still lives in New York, and so does the other guy. We kept almost the same cast. The only role that was recast was the female role.
And where'd you find her?
Actors Access, of course.
Before we leave, tell me what kind of tips you would have for young actors. I mean, everybody doesn't have a brother who's going to write them a play.
That's a good point, yeah. Like I said, I got lucky there. If I had tips, I don't feel like I'm in any position to give tips.
I know, but you've started. I've started. The stage.
Yeah, no, I am. And
what about rejection? Do you feel rejected if you go out? Do you go out?
I go out on auditions, yeah, and you're gonna get rejected. Been rejected a lot already. It's off to a good start with rejection. So.
What about theater and TV and film?
The difference?
Do you have a choice?
I would at some point want to do on camera. Right now, theater, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a great way to get started. If you can do theater, you can probably do film.
Do you feel the audience? That's why you've...
Yeah, I mean, the best part of this play is the buzz that you get from the crowd. I mean, it's really an immersive audience experience.
And you can hear it, and you act off of it.
You can hear it, and you can act off it, and you know when it's not working. And that.
Do you? What do you do?
You don't worry about it, and you fight. You got to fight for it. As long as you're doing what you know your character would do, and you're in it, then they're gonna come around, hopefully.
Well, I think this is your baseball starring role.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I'm so glad you came to tell us about it, Joey.
Thank you. I had a great time.
And we'll come and see it, and we'll be right back with filmmaker Gary Conklin. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with director, producer, filmmaker Gary Conklin, who was born and raised in Fresno, and LA, and San Francisco, and Pasadena. He earned a Bachelor of Arts in History from USC, and he took graduate studies at the University of Paris and at USC School of Cinema. He's been on all sides of the camera. He's done everything in the field of filmmaking. You even studied acting, didn't you?
Yes, I studied acting and was an actor in Italy.
Did you start? Were you going to start as an actor, or what?
Well, no, I was interested in foreign relations, so
really?
I went to. In fact, I went to Cairo to learn Arabic at the American University in Cairo, but I found it not too pleasant, and I preferred going back to Paris and Rome.
So when you went to Paris and Rome, were you acting or were you doing history?
I was studying. I was studying for a doctorate of the Doctorat de l'État in. I won't even tell you the theme of this because I've even forgotten it was so many years ago.
Did you learn how to speak Italian?
Yes,
And then you spoke Arabic too?
No, I never learned anything.
Oh, you didn't learn Arabic?
No, I just had a good time at the Gizera Sporting Club.
So what happened was, did you live in Europe to look for work, or did work take you to Europe?
No, I went to Europe to learn French well and study at the university there. And then I wanted to learn Arabic, and I wanted to enter into the State Department, but that never came about, thank God.
Well, then you wouldn't have been a filmmaker, right?
Right.
Was there show business in your family?
Only my uncle on my mother's side managed most of the cinemas in L.A., down the big cinemas in L.A.
Downtown, is that right? So did you used to go to the movies all the time?
From about the age of 6, yes.
Free movies.
Yeah.
Was that your influence in making films?
I don't really know what the influence was. I liked films. And
so how did you get interested?
I saw a lot of movies, and I wanted to make feature films, but something came about that didn't allow me to make the film, and a feature film. So I stuck with documentaries. You
were working with Alan Landsberg.
Only for 2 or 3 documentaries.
But he was quite big in the TV world, right?
Yeah.
Landsberg made a lot of TVs,
yes.
A big production company.
It was a big production company.
And what were you doing with him?
I did a pilot called Dogs for the Deaf. I did practically nothing, but it sold the cereal. I don't know. It must have been pretty good.
Dogs
for the Deaf.
Oh, so that was part of the documentary that were coming up.
No. That's something totally different. I was paid. It was a well-paid job.
But still, you were working in that kind of film.
Yeah.
What was your first film, and what was the inspiration to make it then?
The first film was Paul Bowles in Morocco, and I was always a big fan of Paul Bowles.
Tell us a little bit about it. That was 1970, right?
That was 1970, yes. I had read Let It Come Down when I was in the Army. I was in the 7th Army Repertory Company. I was supposed to be in a play, but I read this book and I was so bewitched by it that I said, forget it, have somebody else play the part. I'm going to Morocco.
Is that right? And you took off and went to Morocco?
Yeah.
And then how did you find him?
How did I?
How did you find him?
I didn't find him that time. I was too embarrassed to look him up. But I just spent a good deal of time in Tangier and Marrakesh and Algeria. And that was all. But I wrote him a letter later, quite a few years later, if I could make a film on him, and he said, yes, come by.
Is that right? So then where did you go to find him?
I went to Tangier.
Tangier was so great.
Yeah.
I thought Tangier was so much better than Marrakesh.
Really?
To me, it was really interesting and more, I don't know, kind of mystical.
Yes, but Marrakesh can be that way too in other parts of the country. But I like Tangier. I don't like it now. It's just much too big.
But that was early on in the early 70s, right?
Yeah, it was 1969, 70.
When you started making these films, how do you go about it? You just call the subject and say, I want to make a film? What do you do?
Well, I wrote Paul a letter, and he said, come by, and nobody had made a film on him before. After that, it seems there have been 15 films on Paul Bowles since.
And what was the name of yours?
It was called originally Paul Bowles in the Land of the Jumblies, but theatrically they changed it to Paul Bowles in Morocco.
And so how long was the film?
The film was about 58 minutes, I think.
So it's like, yeah. And then you worked with John Huston?
Yeah.
He did the voiceover for Tamayo?
He did the voiceover for Tamayo. And then he liked it so much that he didn't ask for any money.
But so why did you make a film on Tamayo then?
Because he was my favorite painter at the time.
And did you find him? Was he still alive?
Oh yeah, this was 72. And then later I made a film on John Huston.
I know, that was great. Was that the Under the Volcano one?
Under the Volcano.
And when did that come about?
83 was.
83. And how did you get him to do the narrative for you?
You mean for
the Tamayo?
Tamayo? Well, I showed him the Paul Bowles film.
But how'd you get to him? You just agent or?
Through his agent, yeah. And then he liked that, and so he was enthusiastic also about Rufino Tamayo, one of his most famous favorite painters.
He loved Mexico.
Yes.
So that probably was a big.
And in fact, I made 2 films on my 2 heroes, which were John Huston and Paul Bowles.
So there you are. I'm going to go through kind of like from the 70s through till today, because you did Berlin Memories.
Yes.
In 76. What was that about?
It was about Berlin from 1927 to 1933, the twilight of Weimar culture.
And do you write it all? Do you get the
Well, I
whole
usually don't
cast?
write much. I write questions. And,
That's what I mean. You have to do that much,
yeah.
right? You have to have
I have
an
a background.
idea.
You have to read a lot. I mean,
I see.
For example, for that film, I must have read about 60 books.
And then how do you find the people to interview?
I can't remember at the moment, but there are.
And who were they? Some of the people.
Christopher Isherwood, Louise Brooks,
Oh, right.
Arthur Kessler.
Were they here in LA?
No, I had to go there.
You were in
Louise
Boone.
Brooks was in Rochester. Kessler was in England.
I see, I see. So, and then in the early 80s, you made a film on Ed Roche, who was one of our art icons of Los Angeles. How'd you decide to do that?
Well, I saw Roche's work and I thought it was great. And so a friend of mine knew him, Sheila Wells.
Oh, I know Sheila.
Oh, you know Sheila. I haven't seen her.
I know,
She's
I
an
know
immensely
Sheila. Yes.
close friend of mine whom I haven't seen now for
Right.
12 or 15 years.
Yeah. So it was Los Angeles by Roche. So
Yeah.
what were the images?
L.A. At the time, old L.A. and new L.A. The buildings mostly.
Oh, the buildings, because he did that book on the buildings,
Well,
right?
Roche doesn't paint people, he paints buildings. And
Right. And then you got a hold of Gore Vidal, who
Yeah.
was living here in the Hollywood Hills, right?
Right. I thought it would be a good idea to make a film on Gore Vidal running for the U.S. Senate.
Oh, it was that time.
Yeah, it was. I had been offered the possibility of making a film on Gore Vidal before, but I wasn't that interested in Gore Vidal, just Gore Vidal. In other words, I try to connect everything, the personality with the country, with an idea.
And so how did you do that? Did you interview his friends?
No, I did no interviews
Oh,
with his. It was straight Vidal on the campaign trail.
is that,
and
did
I
you
had
follow him for how long?
About 3 months, so 2 or 3 months.
And how was he?
It's very pleasant. Very amusing at the time. It still was the last time I saw him, which was about 6 years ago. But
Yeah. And he's
no, I
gone
did see
now,
him
right?
4 years ago at Musso's once. I
Yeah,
saw him.
oh, 'cause that's a good hangout, Musso Frank's.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And then, so we covered Under the Volcano, which came in 1984, right?
Yes.
And was that, tell us a little bit about that. That was
Well,
the John Huston one.
Yeah, it was John Huston making one of the great novels in English literature, and people came from everywhere.
People loved that,
Photographers,
right?
poets, and they all descended in Cuernavaca. And it was a lot of fun, for me at least. I think for others also.
And then you did this question of class and English.
English literary life between the First and Second World War.
Did you just finally, as you were making all these documentaries, did you just decide, I'm a documentary maker, and you gave up looking into making a feature film?
Yeah, the feature film I wanted to do, I wrote the screenplay, was for Let It Come Down, and we had the cast and everything, but my friend and one of the producers really didn't have the money. He was what they call a confidence man, and he didn't come up with the money. So.
Is that right?
And then I couldn't push it farther. I don't know why.
So it never came about.
It never came about. I still have the script. Still would love to make it. I realize
I think this is what you have to do, right?
I don't know.
I think this is your dream, your passion. How did you, well, of course you'd have to recast it. What was the story of that, Let It Come Down?
It was about an American cipher who comes to Tangier to find adventure and finds madness instead.
Which is what goes on there, right? And did you cast it with European cast or with American?
Delphine Seyrig was one of them.
French.
Yeah, not all French, and Paul Walker. Walker, it's the second.
Oh, yeah, you're Robert.
Robert Walker.
Right. That was his son.
Yeah, his son, who was an actor at that time.
So.
And Shirley Stoller, who was very good in a couple of
So
films.
you had really gone far with.
I had the screenplay, I had the cameraman, and everything was set.
And then you did a film on the city of Veracruz.
Yes, the music.
Yeah, tell us about that. The music,
Well,
the
I
culture.
love Veracruz because it's the closest city to what Havana used to be in the 40s and 50s.
Did you used to go to Havana?
No, I'm just saying that because I saw a lot of films of it at the time. But no, I did. I went to Havana later in the 70s and didn't find it that interesting. I was at a film festival and it was.
But the other thing, we've gone through all these documentaries. You've made a lot of educational films. What were
Well,
those made for?
that's right, I started with
Yeah,
that.
why did you, what were they for? Teaching or?
No, it was, well, I wanted to go to France, and I wanted somebody to pay for it. And so therefore I decided that educational filmmaking at the time was rather important. And so they paid for my trip to France and for the film, which was never released. I don't know why. I thought it was quite beautiful, but
How does that make a filmmaker feel when you put all that time into it?
it didn't make me feel very well.
No.
So I spent a lot of time in Rome doing, I was an actor in commercials.
So you got jobs there,
Yeah.
commercials, speaking English, Italian?
No,
what?
I spoke Italian and English.
We talked about documentaries. You usually don't have to cast them, right?
Right.
There's no casting, but there is writing involved. And putting that whole package together, I guess, as a filmmaker, you do it all.
Yes, I usually do all the editing.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting was that Hollywood social and cultural life of the 30s and 40s. How did that come about?
Well, the same. It's sort of a triptych. The last of the film on Berlin and that period, London, Mayfair, and then Hollywood. And I didn't have any money. I shot the first. The first interview was with the screenwriter Moffat.
Oh,
Did you-
yeah.
And
Ivan Moffat.
Ivan, yeah. And
He
that-
was old Hollywood.
yeah, he was old Hollywood. Not as old as some of the others. And there's Buck Henry wasn't old Hollywood, but old Hollywood was Charles Bennett, the screenwriter, and Gottfried Reinhardt, and Fay Ray, and
Oh,
Douglas
right.
Fairbanks Jr.
Eleanor Phillips was in, you interviewed her too.
Yes.
She was actually the editor of Vogue, but she was married to,
The,
who was she married to? I
she
forgot.
was married to the son, I believe, of Ethel Barrymore.
Exactly, exactly. So you interviewed her at the time?
Yes.
Well, all of these projects, I wanted to just show this whole milieu of what you have done over the years, and I think we covered many, many of them. What's your next project, Gary?
Well, I'm going to La Rioja in Spain, and I'm going to propose a film on a certain vineyard, namely just to, hopefully, to drink a lot of good wine.
To you and to your life.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. And thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to my email at jaquinn1@aol.com. And we'll answer them. We continue to answer them. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.